These iPads were meant for my twins, not your kids, Vanessa announced, snatching the wrapped packages from my stunned children's hands. Tyler and Taylor need them for their advanced classes. Your kids would just waste them on games anyway. My name is Olivia Preston, and I'll never forget the look of devastation on my 10-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, as their aunt tore away their birthday gifts in front of everyone at the dinner party. Vanessa, those were specifically bought for Emma and Ethan, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my rage. Their grandparents purchased those gifts for their birthday. I can do whatever I want in my house, she cut me off, her perfectly manicured finger pointing toward the door. And right now, I want you and your little budget family to leave. You're ruining the ambience of our dinner party. My husband, Mark, Vanessa's younger brother, finally spoke up. Come on, V, it's the kid's birthday. You can't seriously be. Actually, I am serious, she interrupted. My twins have their piano recital next month, and they need iPads for their sheet music. It's educational, unlike whatever your children would use them for. I glanced at my brother-in-law, David, silently pleading for him to intervene, but he just stared at his plate, avoiding eye contact. The silence was broken by my daughter's sob. Emma couldn't hold back her tears anymore. Ethan put his arm around his sister, trying to be strong even as his own eyes glistened. Let's go, I whispered, taking our hands. We don't need to stay where we're not wanted. The drive home was heartbreaking. From the back seat came the muffled sounds of my children trying to hide their disappointment. They had been looking forward to this birthday dinner for weeks, excited to celebrate with their cousins. Now they were heading home early, without their gifts, their special day ruined. I can't believe she did that, Mark said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. My own sister. What's happened to her? I didn't answer. I was too busy thinking about the past 5 years, during which Vanessa had steadily become more entitled since David's promotion at the investment firm had catapulted them into a new tax bracket. We'll get you new iPads, Mark promised the kids, glancing in the rearview mirror. Better ones. I knew we couldn't afford it. Mark's teaching salary and my part-time nursing job barely covered our mortgage. The twins' grandparents had saved for months to buy those gifts. But I nodded anyway, unwilling to add financial worry to my children's distress. That night, as I lay awake replaying the humiliation, something inside me hardened. I wouldn't allow Vanessa to treat my children like second-class family members anymore. The next morning, I called my in-laws to explain what had happened. As expected, they minimized the situation. I'm sure Vanessa meant well, my mother-in-law said. Those devices are expensive, and Tyler and Taylor are in all those advanced programs. So my children don't deserve nice things because they're not in private school? I asked, trying to keep my tone civil. Of course not, dear, but perhaps simpler gifts would be more appropriate for them. Note your audience, as they say. I hung up feeling even more defeated. The whole family seemed determined to maintain Vanessa's position at the top. Over the next few weeks, I did some research on Vanessa and David's finances. Public records showed their mortgage, tax assessments, and incorporation documents for David's side business. Nothing invasive, just publicly available information that painted an interesting picture. They live like they're making twice what David actually brings home, I explained to Mark. The house, the cars, the private schools, the vacations. I think they're overextended. And if they are, he asked. Then we need to be prepared, I said simply. I'm not looking for revenge, I'm looking for protection for our family. 2 months after the birthday disaster, the first hint that my predictions were correct came from Mark's mother. Has Vanessa asked you for money recently? She inquired, her voice hushed. No, Mark replied, glancing at me. Why? She's asked us for quite a substantial loan. Something about temporary cash flow issues with David's work. After reassuring his mother that we hadn't been asked, Mark hung up and turned to me with raised eyebrows. It's starting, I said quietly. 2 weeks after that call, Vanessa herself reached out. It was the first direct contact since the birthday dinner fiasco. Olivia, I need to speak with Mark, she said when I answered, her voice lacking its usual haughtiness. He's teaching right now. Can I help you with something? A pause. We're having a small financial setback. David's firm is restructuring, and his position has been temporarily affected. I was hoping Mark might be able to help us with a short-term loan. I kept my voice neutral. How much are you looking for, Vanessa? 50,000, she replied, as if asking to borrow sugar. Just until David's situation stabilizes. We have the children's private school tuition due next week. I nearly choked. $50,000 was more than Mark made in a year. That's a substantial amount. I'll have to discuss it with Mark. Please do, she said curtly. And Olivia? This stays between family. No need for anyone to know about our temporary situation. After hanging up, I immediately called Mark at school. When he heard the amount Vanessa was requesting, he was speechless. We don't have that kind of money, he finally said. Even if we wanted to help her, which I'm not sure we do after how she treated our kids. I know, but this confirms what I suspected. They're in serious financial trouble. That evening we learned just how serious. Mark's father called, agitated and upset. David's been let go, he said. Not restructuring, fired. Something about risky investments with client money. There's talk of an investigation. Over the next few days, the family crisis deepened. Vanessa and David's financial house of cards was collapsing rapidly. He hadn't just been fired. He was under investigation for financial improprieties. Their mortgage was underwater, their credit cards maxed out, and the private school was threatening to expel the twins for unpaid tuition. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Not for Vanessa, but for her children. Tyler and Taylor were innocent in all this, just like Emma and Ethan had been innocent at the birthday dinner. A week later, Vanessa appeared at our door unannounced. Gone was the designer outfit and perfect makeup. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Is Mark home? She asked, not quite meeting my eyes. He'll be back soon. Would you like to come in? She nodded and followed me to the kitchen, perching awkwardly on a chair. Our modest home, which she had once mocked as quaint and budget-friendly, now seemed to intimidate her. Coffee, I offered. Please. As I prepared it, she finally spoke. Everything's gone, Olivia. The house is being foreclosed. David's under investigation. We're selling everything just to pay for a lawyer. Her voice cracked. The kids are devastated about leaving their school. I placed the coffee in front of her. I'm sorry about the children. They don't deserve this. She looked up sharply, catching my deliberate echo of her own dismissive attitude toward my kids. I know what you must be thinking, she said. That I deserve this. That it's karma. What I think doesn't matter. What do you need, Vanessa? She took a deep breath. We need somewhere to stay. Just for a little while. The house, we have to be out by next week. My parents' place is too small, and David's family is in Europe. The request hung in the air between us. This woman who had humiliated my children, snatched their gifts, and cast us out of her home was now asking to move in with us. Before I could respond, Mark walked in, freezing when he saw his sister at our table. Vanessa, what's going on? She repeated her situation and request. Mark listened silently, then looked at me. We had already discussed this possibility in our contingency planning, but the reality was different from the hypothetical. We need to talk privately, Mark told his sister. Can you give us a minute? In our bedroom, he turned to me. What do you think? I thought about Emma and Ethan, how they had cried all the way home that night. I thought about the iPads that now sat in Tyler and Taylor's rooms. I thought about years of Vanessa's superiority and cruelty. Then I thought about what my own mother had always taught me. Be the person you needed when you were suffering. They can stay, I said quietly, but with conditions. Mark nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. She won't like them. She's not in a position to refuse. We returned to the kitchen, where Vanessa waited anxiously. We have a proposal for you, I said, meeting her eyes directly. But first, let me remind you of something that happened not too long ago at your house. Vanessa's face paled as I recounted that birthday dinner. My tone wasn't accusatory, just matter of fact, but each detail landed like a stone in still water. You humiliated my children on their birthday, I concluded. You took gifts their grandparents had saved for months to buy. You mocked our lifestyle and our values. And now you're asking to live in our home, the same little budget house you've sneered at for years. She stared at her coffee cup, unable to meet my eyes. I know, I was wrong. Yes, you were, Mark agreed, his voice firm but not unkind. And if we agree to help you now, things have to be different. I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table between us. These are our conditions. If you agree to them, you and your family can stay in our guest room, And the kids can share with Emma and Ethan until you get back on your feet. Vanessa tentatively opened the folder, her eyes widening as she read the first page. You want the iPads back? She asked, looking up. They were never yours to take, Mark said. They were gifts for our children from our parents. We want them returned, with an apology to Emma and Ethan. She nodded slowly. What else? You'll contribute to household expenses, I continued. Not much, we know your situation, but something to cover the additional utilities and food. You'll also help with household chores. We both work full-time, and adding 4 people to our home means more cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Vanessa continued reading, her expression shifting between disbelief and resignation. You want Tyler and Taylor to attend public school with your kids. It makes the most sense financially, Mark explained. Emma and Ethan go to the school where I teach. It's a good school, Vanessa. Your kids will be fine there. The final condition made her pause the longest. Family therapy? That's non-negotiable, I said firmly. This family has patterns that need to be addressed if we're going to live together, even temporarily. Your behavior toward us, our children's relationships, your parents' enabling, all of it needs to be discussed openly with a professional mediator. Vanessa closed the folder, her hands shaking slightly. You've clearly thought this through. We have, Mark confirmed. Because despite everything, your family, we want to help you, but not at the expense of our own children's well-being or our self-respect. She was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options, which we all knew were extremely limited. Finally, she nodded. I'll talk to David, but I think we'll accept your conditions. 3 days later, they moved in. The reunion between the cousins was awkward at first. Emma and Ethan were wary, while Tyler and Taylor were embarrassed and subdued. But children are remarkably adaptable, and by the end of the first week, all 4 were cautiously playing together. The iPads were returned with a strained apology from Vanessa and David. To my surprise, Tyler and Taylor had also insisted on writing apology notes to their cousins, expressing genuine remorse for what had happened. We didn't want to take your presents, Tyler confessed to Emma when they thought no adults were listening. Mom just took them, and we didn't know how to say no. The first family therapy session was tense but productive. Vanessa struggled to acknowledge the patterns of favoritism and materialism she had developed, while David had to confront his role in enabling her behavior through risky financial decisions. I wanted to give her everything, he admitted. I thought if I could just make enough money, be successful enough, she'd be happy. But it was never enough. Week by week, things began to shift. The practical realities of living in our budget home taught Vanessa and David lessons that no amount of lecturing could have conveyed. The necessity of carpooling, meal planning, and careful shopping became their new normal. The children adapted more quickly than the adults, with Tyler and Taylor discovering that public school offered friendships and opportunities they'd never experienced in their exclusive private academy. 1 month into their stay, I came home early from my nursing shift to find Vanessa at the kitchen table, surrounded by coupons and grocery ads. I figured out how to save $30 on this week's shopping, she said, looking up with a kind of pride I'd never seen in her before. And I'm making lasagna for dinner, enough for everyone, with leftovers for lunch tomorrow. I smiled, sitting down across from her. You're getting good at this. It's actually satisfying, she admitted, in a way I didn't expect. That night after dinner, as all 4 children worked on homework together at the dining table, Vanessa pulled me aside. I've been thinking about that birthday dinner, she said quietly. About how I behaved. I don't think I've properly apologized to you and Mark. You haven't, I confirmed. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Olivia. Truly sorry. I was cruel and entitled, and I was jealous. Jealous? I repeated, surprised. Of what? Of your family, your marriage, the way your kids look at you. Her voice caught. David and I had all the things, the house, the cars, the vacations. But you and Mark, you have something real. I think I always knew that, and it made me resentful. The honesty of her admission caught me off guard. It was the first time in all the years I'd known Vanessa that she'd shown genuine vulnerability. Thank you for saying that, I said simply. 2 months after they moved in, David found a new job. It didn't pay nearly what he'd made before, but it was honest work with a stable company. Vanessa started working part-time at a local boutique, discovering she had a talent for styling and customer service. when she wasn't looking down on the clientele. They found a modest apartment within their new budget and prepared to move out. The night before they left, we had a family dinner, not unlike the birthday celebration that had started everything, but with a completely different atmosphere. As we cleared the dishes together, Vanessa handed me a small box. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she urged. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 4 small charms, one for each of our children. "It's not expensive," she said quickly, "but I wanted you to have something to remember that sometimes the greatest gift isn't what we receive, but what we're willing to give when it's hard." I clasped the bracelet around my wrist, thinking about the journey we'd all taken. "Who would have thought," I said with a smile, "that losing everything would help you find something better?"